Hey everybody, Tim Evanicki here with the College Audition, back again with another episode of the College Audition podcast. My special guest today is Chair of the Department of Musical Theater at the University of Michigan, Michael McElroy. Thanks so much for joining us, Michael.
Thank you, Tim. Glad to be here.
So our first question is always, we want to get to know the person before the program. So if you could tell us a little bit more about your training and your career leading you up to your time at the University of Michigan.
Sure. I'm originally from Ohio. I grew up in the 70s where arts education was integral to training young hearts and minds. And so I grew up at a time where there was lots of artistic curriculum with a strong choral program, dance program, theater program, art program. And so it really fueled the fire of my wanting to be an artist. And then when I got to high school, I was in the theater program, in the choir. And when it came time to look at schools, back in those days, they used to have representatives that would come from the different colleges. And when that happened, you could get out of a class and get a free pass. So I just happened to go to one of these talks given by a representative from Carnegie Mellon. And I liked what I heard. My mom and I made an appointment to go. And the minute I walked on campus, I was like, this is the place I want to be. And I auditioned in New York City in the fall and was accepted. And I went to Carnegie Mellon and got my degree, BFA, in musical theater and acting. So that's where I trained. And then I moved to New York City and started working and was fortunate enough to over the last 30 years, make my living as a Broadway performer, but also as a composer and arranger for Broadway, and also starting my own organization, Broadway Inspirational Voices, which was a nonprofit choir that celebrates music and brings programming to different organizations in need of music. And so that was where I was. And then 10 years ago, I started teaching at New York University in a new musical theater program called New Studio on Broadway. I was a part of the original faculty that helped build the curriculum for that program. Taught there for 10 years. And then during the height of the epidemic, I got a call about University of Michigan. And I had been a guest artist there in 2018, in January and February of 2019, and in January and February of 2020. So it was not a community that was unknown to me, but I never thought I would move back to the Midwest. And I ended up saying yes, and I started last August in this role as chair of the department, and have just finished my first full year.
And I was actually just going to say, you've just finished your first full year there, and University of Michigan, we can't argue, is one of the schools that probably every student looks at or does some research on and probably knows the program pretty well. But can you tell me anything that you are planning on or have hopes to change as the new department head?
Good question. Well, this past year has been a time, anytime you step into a new position of leadership, it's really about listening and learning. So I spent, the semester listening to faculty, listening to students, getting a sense of the ethos of this program, while at the same time instituting a few little changes here and there, or additions. And so one of the things that we did this past year was I started what I call a community day weekend, where I brought 6 BIPOC artists, mostly from Broadway, to do master classes over a weekend, and students could sign up for 2 classes of their choice, either in West African dance, salsa dance, in Shakespeare to August Wilson monologue class, acting through song, with these artists who together probably have about 30 or 40 Broadway credits between them when you combine them. And then panels, so that we're all also celebrating BIPOC artistic excellence. And that was one of the things that I added to the program, while at the same time, once again, listening and trying to navigate the challenges of being in person during a pandemic. And really, like I said, listening, to what the students were saying they needed, while also listening to what the faculty needs in terms of support, and beginning to institute changes that are going to start to happen in this next year.
So there's a lot of administrative duties and things that come along with being the head of the department, but when are the times that the students will actually interact with you during the program? When do they have you as a professor or teacher?
Starting in the fall. But I had an open door policy, so many students would come, and I scheduled Monday afternoons and Friday afternoons, both semesters, for students to sign up for, just to come and talk. If there were issues or challenges, they didn't have to be issues or challenges. They could just come and be in conversation. Also, we have this thing in the Department of Musical Theater called Monday Lab. And that lab is on Monday afternoons, and the entire student body and faculty come together, and we usually have a guest for most of them. So we'll have a casting director or an agent or a director or choreographer. One week we had Kristen Chenoweth came and did a master class. One week we had Audra McDonald who came and did a class with us. And I took some of those Mondays and scheduled time with just students in a specific class. So one time in the fall, I had just seniors, and it was just a round table, just to sit and talk. What are your goals and thoughts and expectations for this semester? How can I support you? What do you need? And then I did the same thing for freshmen and sophomores, and then again in the spring for juniors, so that I was able to be in conversation with them as in their cohort as a community, and also just listening to where they are, how they're navigating this time of coming back into in-person training, as well as with the faculty once a month to just sit down and be in conversation with them as well. As I said, a lot of it was about listening and getting to know this community that I was stepping into. So that was a special time that we have on those Monday afternoons that I really wanted to focus not just on the building of bridges towards the community and the industry they're going to step in, but also to getting to know the students. But in the fall, I will step into teaching the sophomores and the seniors.
Awesome. So as we transitioned into speaking a little bit more about the program and breaking the actual program and curriculum on the opportunities down, I always put my guests on the spot a little bit and ask for their elevator pitch, their 60 seconds or less. Well, had you listened to an episode before this wouldn't have been a surprise for you.
It's not a surprise. I just don't know what to say half the time.
Well, just give us highlights and maybe look at it as why should students be looking toward the University of Michigan? What should be the draw?
That's a good question, Tim. And having just finished our first round of auditions and accepted students, what I try to do is share with them why they should come to University of Michigan. We really try to build and center the community. And that is in artistic practice and also in building community of artists. We have an incredible faculty who are still professionals in the industry, as well as incredible pedagogues who are doing incredible innovative work in partnership with students who are incredibly talented and open to artistic growth. I want to center, and we center celebrating diverse lived experiences within our community, while also valuing artistic excellence. And so you put all that together, and you're really looking at a community who is looking at each individual and trying to make sure that we're supporting their trajectory so that when they leave the Department of Musical Theater, they not only are prepared to meet the needs of the industry, but they also have the tools to be able to innovate the industry. So they have an eye always towards how they can make it better, stronger, more inclusive, more equitable, more diverse. And so we're really looking at training young artists for the industry, but for the future of what the industry can be by them being a part of it.
That was probably one of the best 60-second or less speeches that I've had. They normally go much longer, and you stayed right
did
within. So, University of Michigan is, arguably the top musical theater school, depending upon who you ask, but most would definitely agree that it's in the top there. Um, why do you think that is? What makes what has built that reputation up so high?
We just did our first musical theater writing minor showcase. So we have a minor in musical theater composition that's 3 years old. And because of the pandemic, we did not present it to the industry until this year. And so we did the showcase this past Sunday here in New York City. And I was joined as co-hosts with Justin Paul and Benj Pasek, who are alums of our program, who, of course, are our composer and lyricist for Dear Evan Hansen, La La Land, Greatest Showman. And one of the things that I asked them in our little conversation during the concert was, what is it about University of Michigan? And they talked about being high school students and doing their research to see which programs they wanted to audition for. And in a lot of programs, there was this idea that in conservatory training, this is the path. And what we try to say is, okay, who are you as an artist? And celebrate and give you opportunities and access to many different roads that are your own, right? The foundation is the musical theater training, the acting training, the dance training, the singing training, the acting through song training, the music theory skill set. But then while you're there, there's so many opportunities to step into something that piques your interest. And that was what happened with Justin and Benj, was that they were like, we want to try, and the opportunity was there, and the faculty said, okay, we will help you do this. We will create opportunities. We will create a curriculum for you to be able to do this. So though we are training students in musical theater training as actors, we're also training them to be artists that are connected to their own authentic passion and making sure that there are pathways and roads for them to be able to pursue them. So you might come in as a musical theater student and, like Justin and Benj, leave as composer and lyricist, right? So it's really about a strong foundation in, these three disciplines, but always with an open-mindedness for where is your individual path going to take you, and how does this training serve you in figuring that out?
To clarify, they graduated still with a BFA musical theater.
They sure
it's
did.
just they were able to tailor their degree toward composition and not have to change majors. It was all still within that same degree.
Yeah, so at the time, Brent Wagner, who was the chair of the program, worked with people in the music department to provide a certain kind of new curriculum for Justin, in composition. So he was taking classes there, and one for Benj in writing, lyric writing. So it wasn't that they didn't continue to take the classes, they did, but they also were able to supplement their course load with things that were specifically geared to what passion they had in songwriting.
And University of Michigan is not a conservatory. It is a major university. So there are those options there for you. But additionally, there are gen ed classes and requirements that are required by the university that most students don't quite understand, that it's a bit more at University of Michigan than at some of the other quote-unquote top musical theater programs in the country. So can you talk a little bit more about the things that students are required to study outside of musical theater?
Well, it's interesting. Having gone to a conservatory training program in a major university back in the Stone Age when I was there, we had 3 classes that we took outside of the department. It was like freshman year, we had computer, and it was like the beginnings of computer. It's like when they were like the size of a building. A history class and an English class, and that was it. That's not the case anymore in any of the programs within most major universities. And students within our department have to take academic courses, and they can major, double major, and minor in other degrees. And what they'll usually find is, because of the makeup of the percentage of academic classes that they take, in the things that interest them, besides just the ones that are required, they find by the time they get to the junior year or beginning of the senior year, because of what they've taken, they go, oh, I'm one course away from a minor in business administration or theater administration or the business of entertainment, or all these different things that they can take, psychology, and so it is more looking at the University of Michigan, not just the artist, but the human being and the holistic experience of being in a university setting in a small, university town, and getting that full experience of it.
You just mentioned double majors and minors, so it is possible to double major with this BFA musical theater. Can you talk about the minor opportunities within SMTD, and then also some common minors that students are taking outside of SMTD?
Well, I know we have, like I mentioned, we have the musical theater writing composition minor, which is open to all students in SMTD and the School of Music, Theater, and Dance. So we have, 3 years of students within the Department of Musical Theater who have minored there, but also across SMTD who are like, jazz composition or classical composition, who have also taken the course, the minor, and minored in that as well. Some students, like I said, minor in business administration or entertainment, in some form of business entertainment administration or theater administration. A lot minor in psychology, or want some kind of business marketing support as they step out into the world as artists. So or English. It covers the gamut. I have a few students who have double majored, but when they double majored, they had to, in order to graduate with their class, they ended up doing a summer of courses so that they wouldn't have to stay an additional fifth year. You know what I mean? So we have a wonderful admissions and student affairs team that sit down with you at the beginning of your first year before you even get here to help you build that schedule, and will also be in conversation with you throughout your first semester and throughout your 4 years to say, if you come in saying, I want a minor in psychology, then they will make sure that you are setting yourself up to take the courses when you need to take the courses at the right time so that you can fulfill that minor. So there's a lot of support. Or if you find halfway through, you go, oh, I'm really interested in this, then they can help you figure out how to make that happen as well. So there's a lot of support within SMTD and the different structures that are there to make sure the students can fulfill the degrees that they want to fulfill, as well as the minors that they want to fulfill as well.
So if I am a freshman musical theater student on my way to my first year at University of Michigan, what does that first year of training look like for me?
There is a lot of music courses. There's music theory, there's piano, and music theory is oral and written, piano. Then there's your, it's called ensemble techniques, which is putting into practice music theory and piano in singing, ensemble singing. You have your dance classes, which are your ballet classes, your styles classes. And then you have a music theater history course. And then in the second semester, we add acting classes to that as well. So it's a pretty full schedule in addition to whatever courses they're taking in English or math in some cases, or history courses that they take. And they also have a crew assignment for the first musical slot of the year. The show that slotted in the first season, in the season's first slot, which is last year was Wild Party, and this year will be Sophisticated Ladies. That's a part of their musical theater text analysis class.
Wonderful. So let's chat about those performance opportunities. Great segue, by the way. Tell us about main stage shows versus student-run shows. How many opportunities do kids have every year to get on stage?
We have an abundance of riches. We have a UProd season, which is University Production season, that usually is either, it alternates every year, but there are 4 shows in our season, 2 in the fall, 2 in the winter term. 3 of them are every other year are supported, fully realized, and 1 is unsupported, meaning less technical support, less set costume lighting, but really focuses on the piece itself and the acting of that piece. And so in the season, 3 of those are musicals and one's a play. So that's what the season is within the Department of Musical Theater. In addition to that, there are student productions that happen both semesters throughout the semester. So there's a student organization called Musket, which has a musical in the fall, fully supported in the large theater, Power Center. And they have one in the spring that is fully supported with full orchestra, full sets, costume, lighting, design, that anyone across the University of Michigan can audition for. So those two. Then you have other smaller student-run organizations that do plays and musicals throughout both semesters. So students have a great amount of opportunities, if they're not cast in a main stage show, to be a part of student-driven, student-run performance opportunities. What I said and learned this past year is, how do you balance the two? You know, there's no shortage of opportunities at the University of Michigan, in the department, in the School of Music Theory and Dance, across the university. It's about making sure that you're balancing your classwork and being present and able to fully engage that with the performance opportunities and your wellness, well-being as a student, engaging all of that at the same time. Mm-hmm. So this past year, there were a lot of student opportunities, a lot of student-driven work that was really based, I think, on coming back from a year and a half of not having had those opportunities. So students were really excited to do a lot and wanted to be involved in a lot. Now it's about balancing that with well-being and coursework.
Mm-hmm. How soon do freshmen get on stage?
Second term.
Second term? Okay. That's always a question. Freshmen always ask, or incoming freshmen, or I should say seniors, always think it's so important that they are able to perform right away when they get to school. And I usually have to explain to them, I don't think you're going to want to, actually, because there's a lot of just learning how to be a college student that's happening, and adding the stress of a show to that might be a little bit too much for them. But the question always comes up, so I like to ask it.
Yeah, your answer is exactly right. You know, there's a period of adjustment that has to happen, right? There's the adjustment of being on your own, being independent, you know, doing your own laundry, maybe for the first time, you know, getting your food, either, you know, making sure that you're always balancing all of that and your class schedule, and getting, you know, we are on 2 different campuses. So there's North Campus and then there's Central Campus. So getting back and forth and scheduling and making sure that you're able to, you know, build a schedule of when you do your homework and rehearse your classwork and get your papers written on, all of that, while adjusting to, you know, a roommate, adjusting to dorm life, all of those things, and adjusting to the training that need to take place in that first semester. So I think it's important that freshmen aren't performing in that first semester, so they have that time to acclimate to all of the things that are major shifts, you know, life shifts that are, you know, that are part of stepping into campus life. And we then allow them to audition for the winter productions. So that they start to get used to that after a semester of getting adjusted to, you know, learning the craft in a new way, right? So, and being able to put those skills that they've learned in their first semester to use in a performance setting. Mm-hmm. But I think it's important that you not have the pressure of classes all day and rehearsals all night in your first semester. You need that time. And I think it's valuable time. And I think generationally, what we're trying to articulate is that there's no hurry, that we don't have to be in a rush, that there's something about allowing yourself to adjust and to acclimate and to figure things out, get a lay of the land before feeling like you have to do, because we live in a time that values the doing, always being fast, always, you know, having 10,000 things to do. But that doesn't always support the real foundational necessities of being an artist, which is the process, which is, not skipping steps, of sometimes sitting in an uncomfortable place to kind of figure out how to navigate it, as opposed to the result of something and then moving on to the next thing. We're a very, tick-tock, kind of bits mentality society now, and that's not going to serve you in a long-term artistic journey. So let's get comfortable with sitting in the process a little bit more and the joy of that, as opposed to the need or necessity to present, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm interested in engaging and being in community with artists who are going to develop the tools to be doing something 10 years, 15 years, 20 years from now, whether it's in theater or not, because they took the time to build the structure of their practice, mm-hmm. rather than rushing to present something.
Absolutely. You don't want to peak in college, that's for sure. And your career will be much, much, much longer than your 4 years there, hopefully. Looking back, I'll tell my students all the time, it seems like it's the biggest thing in your life at the time, and in some cases it is, but my 4 years at Juilliard, looking back now, are a blip. They're a blink. I value the time, and they certainly set me up for everything, but it wasn't my career at that time. The things I learned there is what set me up. So our students often get the opportunity to work with Mark Madama at our summer conservatory. We do an on-campus workshop. We're doing it again this fall at University of Michigan, where they get to work with Catherine and with Rhonda Jesus. It's going to be teaching a dance masterclass. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the other key faculty members that students will be encountering when they're there?
Sure. We have Vince Cardinal, who was the previous chair, and he was also one of my mentors. Put me in my first musical when I was 15 years old in high school, and has been a continued mentor, and I would not have gotten through this past year without being able to text and call him on a day-to-day basis as I'm navigating this new position.
Sorry, can we pause for a second? How did it come to be that Vince Cardinal knew 15-year-old Michael and put him in a show?
Okay, so Vince went to Kent State for his degree, and when he was a student teacher, he taught at my high school. And so I graduated into high school from junior high school and started 10th grade, having never done any musicals. And my first musical that I auditioned for was Runaways, and he was directing it. And so he was a student teacher, so he was barely maybe 5 years older than me, maybe 4 years older than me, and put me in my first musical and really taught me, that it was more than talent, that it's hard work, it's consistent work, there's a certain respect that you have for the craft, and that you bring that at all times, and really instilled in me a value for what we do as artists, and was on me. I grew up, I was a talented kid, and had a lot of talent and sang in church choirs and did a bunch of different things, but the discipline of being in the theater, he instilled in me at a very young age. And then over the course of, my career, and academic career and artistic career, he's always been there and brought me to University of Miami when he was there as chair to direct Violet. It was the first time I ever directed a show, and it was Violet, which I had originated here. And then he brought me 3 years in a row to University of Michigan as a guest artist to work on concerts, to work on original works that I was creating, or just to do master classes with the students. So he has been a consistent and a constant in my artistic and personal life for many, many years. And so he teaches acting. So he teaches heightened language, he teaches contemporary, and he teaches senior acting, which is a combination of both. And he directs, and is an amazing director and teacher. of the arts. We have Catherine Walker, as you mentioned, Jason DeBoard, who is part of our musical directing team. He is a musical director for at least one musical a year in the season. He also teaches, this year he'll be teaching senior performance, which is our vocal performance, acting through song class for seniors, which really is focusing on creating the book to step out into the industry. He also will be teaching, he co-teaches with me the showcase class that happens over the course of the fall and winter term. We also have Cynthia Cortman-Westfall, who is another one of our music directors, and she teaches the pop rock class for juniors and seniors, and she also teaches junior performance, which is acting through song for our juniors. We have Rhonda Jesus, as you said, who teaches ballet and styles. We have Lisa Meyer, who also teaches ballet and styles. We have Sarah Randazzo, who teaches tap. We have, let me see, who else am I missing? Oh, then we have our incredible voice faculty, Caroline Helton, Chelsea Packard, Ann Evans-Watson, and Mel Racine, who teach private voice. And as I said, I'll start teaching this fall with sophomore performance and co-teaching the showcase class. And what I really love about what we do in our department is there's a real individualized teaching because the classes are small and they're co-taught. So in a performance class, a sophomore performance, junior performance, senior performance class, there is a acting, directing faculty member and a musical directing faculty member who are co-teaching those courses. So those are some of the faculty that students are going to come in contact with. And I hope and Chair Emeritus Brent Wagner, who teaches music theater history to our students from freshman to senior year. So those are some of our faculty that students will come in contact with.
Amazing. Let's fast forward to senior year now. Something that I think it's a big day every year when the senior entrance comes out. All of my students I know are always watching it. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is exactly and how that came to be? And that's quite a tradition that you have.
It is, and it grows every year. The senior entrance, or freshman welcome, we call it, is an opportunity for the seniors to actually welcome the freshmen into our community, into the department. And so it is kind of a satire on faculty, the experience, it's a rite of passage. And it is the first thing that happens when we come back in the fall, and the entire faculty and student body attends, and it is a huge performance. It's like a 20-minute performance that seniors come back 2.5 weeks, maybe 3 weeks early for. They direct, produce, choreograph, music direct, write all the lyrics, create the arrangements. They do it all. And it really is a love letter to the department and a welcome to this incoming class. And it's the beginning of a relationship that the seniors have with the freshmen, which is they call them their senior buddies, that is ongoing. Even when I was at Showcase here a couple weeks ago in New York, that our seniors who had their freshmen, when they had their senior buddies when they were freshmen, came to the showcase to support them, and that relationship is ongoing. So it really is building the foundation of welcoming freshmen, first years into the department, but also the foundation for this relationship that seniors have with first years that, goes out into the industry and will stay with them moving forward.
And then, of course, senior year showcase. Can you talk a little bit about the senior showcase?
Sure. Senior showcase is our opportunity to introduce our seniors to the industry. So at the end of the winter term in April, we actually do 2 performances of our senior showcase here in Ann Arbor for our support systems here, our donors, our audiences here, and then we bring our students come to New York, and we perform 2 shows here for industry, for agents, casting directors, creatives, and then also for our alums. It is Once again, another rite of passage that our alums welcome this new generation of alums into the fold. And that happens after graduation on a Monday here in New York City. And from that, graduates, are able to start to connect with agents and casting directors. Sometimes there are auditions that happen, or choreographers or directors who are interested in them and want to meet with them. So it really is another opportunity to build a bridge or begin that process of transition into the industry.
You'll hear some schools
and each
say...
student gets...
No, please go ahead.
I was going to say, each student gets 90 seconds to present a song. And so the show is maybe 50 minutes. Mm-hmm. And we spend a year just exploring, and we're doing it in this fall in a different way. It's going to be over a year, really trying to make it fun so that it's not about the pressure of this one moment, but about a culmination of many moments and a celebration of what makes each artist unique, and celebrating that uniqueness through whatever they present in that moment.
You'll hear some schools tout that 100% of our students have been signed to an agent from our showcases in the past however many years. And so that's a question that gets asked to me often. What is the success rate, quote unquote, of your students getting signed to agents from your showcase?
Well, this was my first one, so I'm actually in the process of finding out all that information as we speak. I have meetings with our graduates starting tomorrow. But the thing for me that I want to, and I'm not trying to swipe that question, but I do think it's important that we understand, and one of the things we try to articulate to our students is that everybody's journey is unique and particular, and so sometimes a student, and we have when our seniors come to New York the day before our showcase, we spend some time and I invite in 3 alumni who talk about showcase from their perspective, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years out, to kind of put in perspective that there's not one way. And so this last one we had Olivia Hernandez, who's on Broadway right now in Plaza Suite. We had Sidney Clark and Andy Jones. And each one had a different story. Some of them didn't get an agent right out of showcase, but found that 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years out, they now have an agent. They now have been working consistently on Broadway or on tour or doing different things. So I try to really impress on students that your journey is your own. And some students come right out, they get that agent. And then sometimes you get an agent with some fancy big agency, and then, the relationship doesn't work out. Or sometimes it's amazing and explosive. And then sometimes there are students who don't get that immediate, gratification, immediate connection. And they get out there and they start auditioning, and through connections, through alums and people that they've met, that we've built bridges with through our working in the theater lab, Monday Labs, they start to build up their own reputation. And through other alums, they get an agent or get or do a show, and someone says, "Hey, I want to introduce you to this agent." And then 5 years later, their career is taken off. There's no one way. So I try to impress upon students that your journey is individual and unique, and so how you measure success has to be your own. It can't be through the lens of somebody else. So we really do try to articulate that you're in your own lane, and don't spend your time looking to the right or left, but really focusing on what your trajectory can and will be.
Mm-hmm. Well said. That's what I tell students too. You can't compare yourself to others and what their path was. And then I point to all of the people that are their biggest idols on Broadway that may have never even completed their 4 years in college. And it doesn't really, everyone needs something a little bit different to get to where they're supposed to be.
Right.
Before we move on to talk about auditions, I do like to talk a little bit about campus life and sort of what the student life is on campus. University of Michigan is in Ann Arbor. There's not a whole lot to Ann Arbor other than the University of Michigan because it's a huge campus. But can you talk a little bit about where SMTD is compared to sort of the center of the campus and all of that?
Well, the only two campuses that we are on are Central and North Campus. And North Campus has kind of turned into a thriving artistic space because it's where Walgreen Drama Center is, and that's where Department of Musical Theater and the Department of Theater and Drama are housed. And then across the street we have the Moore Building, which is where all the music, voice, instrumental, all of those music courses and classes and concerts are there. And then behind them, just this past year, the new dance building opened. So the dance department is there. So we have this kind of thriving metropolis of artistic practice there on North Campus. But on Central Campus, some of our, that's where our other main performance spaces are. So the Mendelssohn Theater is there, Power Center is there, Rackham is there. So students spend their time, mostly on North Campus, but some classes are on Central Campus. And what I love about Ann Arbor is, though the University of Michigan is a big part of it, there is a thriving kind of art scene that's, kind of, I want to say new agey, but, interesting spaces where students perform off campus in these community places and theaters. There's also a thriving, I'm a foodie, so there's a thriving food scene there with wonderful restaurants. And so it's a perfect, idyllic kind of campus life with in this beautiful city. And so if you want that kind of experience, and this is the thing that I articulate to students, is that you have to also not just look at the program, but at where the program is housed. And, some people want a thriving kind of New York City where, New York City is actually the campus. And some people want the college experience in a college town, so I always encourage them to look at the totality of the experience, not just the program, but the entire experience of it, because that's what you're going to be engaging for 4 years. And so students do get that excellent training in musical theater, but also get the campus life and the campus scene that Ann Arbor provides.
All right, let's switch gears now and speak about the audition process. And this was your first audition season.
Yes.
And it was not normal, let's just say that, because of COVID. Everything went online last minute. And but I still want to talk a little bit about audition numbers. And let's start with the obvious question I ask everybody. Do you pre-screen?
Yes.
Of course you do. And how many pre-screens did you receive this past year?
Almost 1,200.
Okay. And from those 1,200, how many students were invited to a live audition?
A little bit over 400.
Okay. And from those 400, how many are you aiming for an incoming class?
We have an incoming class of 23.
Okay. Interesting question that's answered slightly differently by everybody. Do you have any predetermined breakdown of that class in any gender, diversity, anything like that?
I think what you're asking, sometimes programs are looking to create a company within that class. We're not. We really are looking at the individual with an understanding that diversity exists in many different ways, right? There's a diversity in terms of racial, ethnic diversity, gender diversity. There's also national and international diversity. And so we're looking at all of those things in terms of what is going to make a class that will actually come together and challenge and excite each other in the work. because they bring so many different and unique and exciting perspectives based on where they grew up or what they represent or their racial or ethnic identity. And so it's really about finding those individuals and putting them together and saying, with this excellent faculty, and saying, okay, now let's start to challenge you to become the best artist you can be, and create a community of trust where you can really risk and grow and thrive. So not so much a company, just really the individuals and who we're excited about in that process.
So there's no predetermined this many boys, this many girls, or nothing?
Well, no.
Okay.
It turns out to almost be half. It's usually 50-50. You know what I mean? Where, but then once again, according to what language and parameters. Like we have some students who do not identify on the binary, right? So when you're saying, speaking in binary terms, this many males, this many females, we have students who are non-binary. And so, the balance of who it is just depends on the students. And then sometimes that changes through the course of their 4 years. And we want to make sure that we're celebrating that and making space for that in the training.
Great. I just like to ask the questions as specifically as possible because musical theater parents that hear things from other musical theater parents that become fact, and I just always like to get it directly from the source. So how many offers did you make to get to that 23 this year?
25.
That's awesome. That's great. And of course, the big question is, what are the things that you're looking for in those pre-screens that get them to a live audition, and then the things you're looking for in the room to get them that offer?
Well, having sat through this first pre-screen audition process, all on Zoom, as you said, our pre-screen is pretty robust in what it asks from students. You're asking for 2 contrasting musical theater songs. It can be music theater, pop. You're asking for 2 contrasting monologues, not necessarily classical. And then we ask for a wild card, which is doing something, presenting something that shows us something different than it could be another song. It could be, we have had students play guitar. We've had students show their interest in baking or, many different things. And then you have your dance to video submissions. And then there's a video submission that just you could answer one of 3 questions, right? All of this is designed for us to get to know who you are, who the student is as an artist, because this is the thing, the material you choose tells us a lot about you, tells us what you're passionate about, and then we're looking at your talent. We're looking at, can you actually do the thing that you're presenting? We find in this day of coaches and people that, that sometimes people are singing and doing material that has been chosen for them. And when you get to the audition portion that's in person or on Zoom, sometimes we'll ask, oh, that's an interesting piece. Why did you choose that? You should be able to talk about the writer. You should be able to talk about the piece and why you were passionate about sharing this piece. Those kinds of things. So going back to pre-screens, there's so much that we're looking at to get to who's going to move to the next part of the audition process. But all of it is designed to get to know who you are, what you're passionate about, what you're excited about, your talent, your potential. All of that is in those many videos and essays that students will write for the pre-screen process.
Beautiful. Last question that I always ask everyone that's a guest here is, tell us something that you're looking forward to.
You mean in department or just in life?
I will let you answer that question however you see fit.
What am I looking forward to? I look forward to this new class being my first class that I was a part of, but I enjoy and have a real strong connection to all of our students. I look forward to being in community with them. I look forward to a day when I'm not having to worry about what it is that I'm doing because it's so brand new, you know. I look forward to a day when I can go, okay, I know what I'm doing. and feel like, you know, I'm not always, the way I described this past year was learning to fly a 747 while flying a 747. That's what it feels like. Mm-hmm. So I look forward to a day when that is not the feeling, but I enjoy the day-to-day question and interrogation of what it means to train artists in this moment as we're coming out of and still navigating a pandemic, a racial reckoning that has happened in our country. What does it mean to look at our artistic training through the lens of diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility, and belonging? What does that mean to create art where we are celebrating all the lived experiences of the students that are within that community and faculty in that community? What does it look like to train students to not only go out into the world and engage the industry, but innovate it? You know, those are the things I look forward to. And at the same time, creating my own art. I love, you know, continuing my work as a composer, an arranger, and creating new works and arrangements, because that also keeps me artistically filled. And looking forward to being able to get back in the classroom and teach students again after not being able to do that for a year. Mm-hmm. And I also look forward to being here over the summer in New York and filling up. So much of what we do as faculty, as artists, especially in spaces of leadership, is pour into students, pour into faculty, pour into programming and the program itself. And there are not many opportunities to be replenished. Maybe to some people, administration is their joy. It is not my joy. It does not replenish, but it's a necessary part of leadership. So being back in New York City and engaging my art and doing my artist in residency at Little Island are ways that replenish me so that when I step back in August in Ann Arbor into a finely furnished apartment that it took a year to get furniture for, you know, and into my office and into the classroom, I'm filled up again. So I have something to offer my students, so that I have something to offer my faculty, so that I can continue the work of, you know, what it means to engage and celebrate this art form that I love so much and that I have, you know, invested in and poured into over 30 years. So I guess it's a long way of answering your question, but I get on a tear and I just start kind of going for it. But those are the things I look forward to.
Beautiful. Michael, if people want to learn more about the musical theater program at University of Michigan, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
Is to go on our website, on the School of Music, Theater, and Dance website at University of Michigan, and also to be followers on our social media platforms. Department of Musical Theater, we are very active in keeping that site going, letting you know what our alums are doing, letting you know what we're doing in the department, upcoming events that have gone on, you know, celebrating our students and what they're doing now and in the future when they step into the industry. That's a really great way to stay connected, as well as on our SMTD social media platforms.
Great. Well, Michael, it was so great to have you here chatting about the program, and we hope to see you around real soon.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Thank you. Have a great day, sir.